Thanks for staying here on News Desk. The minority in Parliament is disputing claims by the Defence Minister Dominic Nitiwul that the NDC government left behind 678 workers at the presidency, an inheritance which has increased President Akufo-Addo's staff to 998. The President, in a letter to Parliament last week, provided details of his staff strength, indicating 9 ministers of state, 27 presidential staffers, 276 junior appointees and 706 civil and public servants. Mr. Nitiwul, however, says a lot of the staff were inherited from the previous administration. Dr. Bosman Eric Osaris, head of Political Science Department at the University of Ghana. He joins us via phone. Good morning, sir. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, good morning to you and good morning to your viewers.
Great. Should the number of staffers be a problem or a matter of debate?
I think generally it should be a matter of debate, and for lack of a better phrase, I would say we can see it as a problem, largely because these people are going to be paid by the taxpayer. So if people are talking about it, people are saying they think the number is too large, the number is too unwieldy. I think we live in a democracy, so people have the right to be able to comment and to even condemn.
And who inherited what number and from which administration? I mean, that's been going on for some time because the minority are disputing claims by the Defence Minister that a majority of that number was inherited from the previous administration. Should that come to play at all?
No, I think in a way, just for comparative analysis, we need to know how many people were working there under the NDC. And if the MPP has added some number, I think it's a legitimate thing for the public to know. But ultimately, I think we must look at it from a particular context. We know this administration has introduced other agencies, ministers of state and other programs like the inner cities and others. So we should expect that with the introduction of these new offices and the increase in the number of ministers, naturally should also affect the Jubilee House. So I think once we look at it from context, then we need some better explanations from the Jubilee House. Why is this number? What things are they doing differently? Are there some interventions for them to address? And how likely is it that this number will increase the productivity of the country by the end of the year? So I don't think it's so much of a problem as long as they are going to increase our GDP by a certain percentage. Then we just heard last week that the economy grew by 8.5%. If this can be sustained and more Ghanaians will be employed in the public sector, I think it can only be better for us as a people.
So are you saying that justifies the number of people working at the presidency?
No, I was making the point that we need some explanations from the office of the president. So that once they give us the explanation, they will be able to tell us that with this number is going to do A, B, C, and D. They are supporting this particular office or these offices to be able to prosecute a particular agenda. So once at the end of the year, Ghanaians can see that it has reflected in terms of our growth, our development as a country, then we wouldn't have so much to say in terms of negativity. But if they are not able to provide that explanation, then it means it's a source of concern. Because I think it's too preliminary to just look at the numbers and condemn that the number is overbloated when indeed we've not looked at the rationale or the reasons behind. But one thing I know is that at times when you find yourself in desperate situations, you want to roll out some desperate measures. So we need some explanations from the Jubilee House about that.
Now, what should be the ideal, looking at our country, looking at the numbers, looking at, even what we have, in our coffers, state coffers and all. What, in your opinion, should be the ideal?
So in terms of the ideal, when you are not in government, especially in the executive branch, it will be very, very difficult for you to know. But the reality is that when you look at our growth rate, when you look at the government budget, which is around $10 billion annually, that means it's too pale in comparison to similarly situated countries. So I should expect that the size of the public sector should not be too huge. But we also acknowledge that there are certain areas in the public sector that are very, very critical, like education, like health, agriculture. These are places we may need several individuals to be able to prosecute our agenda of Ghana beyond aid. But the numbers there are not very, very encouraging. But normally we also give those who are the helm of affairs the benefit of the doubt for the things they've rolled out, they've decided to do, because they know why they've put certain measures in place. Although civil society may also condemn, which is very, very legitimate. But ultimately, we need to give them that benefit of the doubt so that at the end of the year, if that number is not able to translate into development, then we can begin to question that you are wasting taxpayers' money. So as I said, knowing that the ideal number will be very, very difficult. Even when you look at the number of people on the government payroll, I don't think nationwide is too large. If we were producing more, if indeed a place like the University of Ghana, the department I find myself in, the numbers we have working here in comparable institutions in Canada, USA, and others, they have about 3 times the staff strength we have. So that means we are far, far behind. So I think it's a matter of productivity.
It's interesting you bring up the example of Canada, because there have also been comparisons, for example, with the White House and the staff strength there compared to what we have in Ghana. What would your reaction be to that?
No, in terms of, I think it's a very legitimate argument to make. I don't know the staff strength at the White House, but I know they do have several offices with several bureaucrats who are working there. And one thing the Americans have been able to do is that they will also ensure that many people work in the other departments of the government, and they also could provide support as far as the White House is concerned. But I don't know so much about what we do in Ghana. And critically, the main argument is that are all the people working in the Jubilee House, and I've heard some people who are saying that some are working from other jurisdictions or other offices, so to speak. So generally, the number looks like it's too large. But as I said, the best thing is for maybe the chief of staff or the spokesperson for the Jubilee House, Mr. Ayin, coming out to say, oh, this number, these people are doing this, these people are doing that. So until we know the breakdown, I think by just looking at the numbers and condemning that we think it's bloated, etc., I don't think we'll be doing our listeners, we'll be doing the ordinary people a favor. We need to know these numbers, new numbers after I've joined, about 258 or so junior staffers. What indeed are they bringing on board? What are they doing differently, which was not done in the past? As I said, we shouldn't forget this government has increased the number of ministers. So maybe there are others who may be supporting from different locations, different angles, etc.
Thank you for your time. Dr. Bosman Asare is head of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana.